Hello, everyone.
Hey, Greg. It's Greg Heiss.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Doing well. How are you?
Good. I'm a little jet lagged, but other than that,
I'll bet.
things are
How's
going
the
well.
whirlwind tours going well?
Yeah, actually, really well. Um, Yesterday, we had a really good meeting with Paul Andre Melies, and
Oh,
today we had an awesome meeting with Samson Abramsky.
right
Um,
on.
and yep, and so we will be moving to set up strategic partnerships um, with Paul Andre and with Samson.
That's great.
Um, yeah,
Congrats. Congrats. Good.
you
Good.
know,
Good. You guys are moving. That's fantastic. I mean, I don't want to take up time on this call, but did you get my note on the blockchain guys in
yeah,
London?
yeah, yeah,
Is there a
yeah, yeah.
chance that you can meet them, or did you already leave? Or I'm assuming you're still headed that direction.
We're going to London day after tomorrow. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, so
All right.
we'll be reaching out to them. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Good deal.
Yeah.
Okay.
hmm Um, well, there is a lot of stuff to update about. Oh my God, there is so much stuff to update about. Um, but I really, as always, I much want to do the technical updates first. Meta, I owe you an apology. I passed out. And I
Oh
missed
no.
the project planning meeting. I'm so sorry.
What, you need sleep, Greg? I would have never thought.
um, so to make up for it, let's begin with you and let's hear some technical updates.
Sure. So, great update this week. The teams are making excellent progress in their sprint backlogs. I'm so happy. I feel very confident that we will get to very close achievement on our sprint backlogs across the board, which is terrific from a project planning perspective. We need to push very hard to meet our roadmap goals. So great work there. We had a very productive project planning meeting just now, as Greg indicated, where all the teams kind of get together and talk about their section of the program and what's on track, what releases they're marching to. We also did a deep dive on the roadmap, and we started talking about the next few releases that are coming down the pike and what needs to be specified. And so we're really, like I said many times before, we're really buttoning down and bolting down the details on how things are actually going to work. So very good progress being made there. And the team is managing dependencies very, very well. I have been focusing on planning up milestones up till Mercury. I have a good sense of what we need to do between now and Mercury on a month-by-month basis. So I'm very happy to have that initial plan, and that is reflected on the roadmap on the wiki. I'm also working to specify the node, what we're calling the power box or the system channels. So this is the way that Rolang will be able to communicate with the physical resources on the node, such as send a message or print something to the console or access the cryptography, or if and any of the lower level functions that we want to expose in the node to Rolang, those will be accessed by system channels. So we're in the process of specifying those so we can go into implementation over the next 4 to 6 weeks. The compiler team is continuing work on the normalizer and the match algorithm. And we have made a decision on the rev system contract. Our intention is to use purses. And so Michael Birch will be cutting a new PR with an updated rev system contract that uses purses. So look for that to hit GitHub here in the next several days. The Node team has implemented Prometheus monitoring tool, and they've done great work on message encryption and improving Handshake. They've also done a lot of work in refactoring the code to make it even more like a more strict functional programming dialect. And Pavel has really been kind of leading the charge on that. And he's also going to be setting up some workshops for the development team on the kind of dialect he's using with respect to Scala. So the entire team is speaking the same dialect of Scala in the code base. Whoever is typing, if they could mute, I would appreciate that. We're making great progress in the storage tier. We are working on an in-memory version of storage and then an LMDB version of the same implementation. So whatever hashes from the tuple space is also reflected in LMDB as well. So that work is progressing along very nicely, and we see no impediments for the 329 or the 315 releases. The Rosette team is making good progress on opcodes. Alex Piatin was on vacation for a couple of weeks, and we're happy that he's back. We also have our community member, Abner, who also cut a couple of PRs for more opcodes. So we are, I'm very happy to see good progress being made on the virtual machine. We are implementing primitives for the tuple space, and we're going to start work on splitting out the C++ compiler next week and doing a test to make sure that we can actually rip out the VM global literals and pass those back and forth. The goal being that we want to use the C++ RBL compiler as a complete component and attach that to the Roland compiler so we can compile down to opcodes. We discovered today that we'll need to port this piece to 64 bits. So that was something that was a miss on our part, but fortunately in the project planning meeting that was brought to our attention. So we're going to have to scope out that work and add it to the C++ compiler port and break out. What else? I'm going to be releasing more primitives for Bounty. We'll also have an updated workflow to make the translation simpler. So if you know Scala devs out there that are interested in participating in the project, tell them to go read up on the Bounty program and look for those development Bounty tickets. So those new tickets will be coming. They'll be published probably in about 3 to 4 days, and looking for lots of help on the primitive translation. That wraps up my update. If there are any questions, and I'm going to turn it over to Kelly to provide a quick update on the websites.
Thanks, Meta. We spoke last week about listening to community feedback and needing to surface more content on the developer website. And to that end, yesterday we published the rolling specification document. It's the document that speaks to the larger future for the Roland language, and it doesn't reflect necessarily what the state is today, but we had enough feedback that people wanted to see that, so that is on the developer website as of yesterday afternoon. Also in the works are some other plans in the near term to help surface more highly curated content. Again, a lot of community feedback is informing what needs to be surfaced there, and so that we can help people find what they need and when they need it. And those changes will be coming over the next few weeks.
Terrific, thank you. Opening up for questions. Any questions for me? Going once, going twice. Okay, you can always DM me on Discord. Over to you, Greg.
Yeah, thank you. I was muted. I was going to ask if there was any timeline on the compiler componentization.
Not yet. We wanted to give Keith the opportunity to finish up the primitives he was working on as part of his current sprint goals. So he will be starting that work next week. So I don't have an estimate as yet. Okay. The 64 bits will add to it, whatever it was before, because that was, like I said, that was something that was not on our radar. So I'm keen to see how long it's going to take as well. Cool.
And we had talked at some point about maybe starting to have demos of the new storage stuff. Is there any timeline on that? I don't want to put anyone on the spot, but just curious.
No, absolutely. So I believe we are intending on releasing the storage library as part of the March 29th release. So as part of that pre-release demonstration, I trust that Henry will be able to demo what he's building. So a couple weeks, we'll have something to share. Long overdue. Yes.
No, this is great. Great news. Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And really, yeah, I'm also very excited about the team. We've had a lot of really good conversations, lively conversations. If anyone listened to the Casper stand up this week, lively conversations about the gas model, and and we've also had similarly lively conversations about sharding. So, I feel like there's good engagement, and my sense is we're right at the cusp of agreement on the models on those issues as well.
Greg, when are you back? When are you and Mike back?
So we are back. Mike flies back earlier because we're going to Berlin to just sort out, the European offices, or at least get that process rolling. So I think we're back on the 13th.
Okay, I would like to continue the sharding discussion. I sent an email. Yeah. So if you can, I don't know if you've seen my email or if you're buried, but if you could give me some time slots, that would be spectacular. And I'll see about when Mike is getting back.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that'd be good. And those are always good, fun discussions. Okay, so we also, last night, oh man, it feels like it was 30 years ago, but it was just last night that we had a mammoth board meeting. So we just plowed through a ton of issues on the plate for the co-op. So let's see, is Kenny on?
Yep, I'm here.
Do you wanna walk through the agenda items that were in front of the board?
Sure. Yeah. Let's see if I don't know if we have a copy of the agenda, so I'll just try to get it out there from memory, which is, like Craig said, it's quite a lot. So, first off, there was a bunch of stuff from the compensation committee that needed to get passed through. And again, for those interested, I am posting redacted copies of the minutes from the compensation committee, just because financials, especially for individuals, can be a little bit personal. But we have heard the feedback that people do want to see the numbers, so possibly a compromise might be for the individuals for which numbers are given specifically on compensation committee minutes. If they would like to make those numbers public, I'd sure be willing to do that. But at any rate, the board did accept all the recommendations from the compensation committee. The next biggest item there is the board also accepted the nomination of Kate Gonzalez, I think, as our new treasurer. So that's very exciting. And she will be, yes, she'll be. I'm not actually sure if anyone has reached out to her just yet. So I think
yes,
okay.
I did actually.
Good.
I reached out to her yesterday and alerted her as to the outcome, and told her that we'd have a more formal, sit down when I return, but she should begin working with Lisa right away. So she's already done that.
Excellent.
Yeah, yes.
Right. Also on the table were some strategic partnerships with with LICA specifically about moving forward with a letter of intent, I believe. Right? Is that Greg? Right, Greg?
That's exactly right. Yes.
Yeah.
I'll go a little bit deeper on the discussions with LICA, but let's go broad and then we'll go deep.
Sure. What else were there? So that was going from memory. Those were the biggest things we had.
There was let's see. Wow. Hang on. Did we send out an agenda notice to the board? Because I can just pull that up.
I don't think so. Evan was holding the agenda, and it was kind of getting put together all the way up until the end.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, there were a couple of items that fell off because it was just we had so many to get a hold of. One that will have to be pushed to the next board meeting. Speaking of which, there was a regular board meeting item to have a regular time slot for the board meeting, which is the first Tuesday of every month. And what did we say? I think it was 12 noon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Another one on personnel. We approved. Anyway, John West, who is
Yes.
I don't know how else to describe him, but just a rock star. He's one of
Yeah.
those rare individuals that you really want. That if they're interested, his level of interest is so broad, and his level of experience and intellect is so deep.
Yeah.
We wanted to find a place for him to plug in, and I think we're getting, or the board did approve a couple interesting a couple plans to make that happen. Just because John West is
so he's a friend. He's a friend of Vlad Zamfir's, which is how we got hooked up with him. He was materially. He was instrumental in helping the co-op complete our first use of the Cumberland Mining Company as to get us towards our stated our stated goals with respect to the mix of our assets. So
is he a butcher, a baker, a candlestick maker?
So
yes.
he's all of those, and a financial wizard. So he's one of these. So he was like to give you a sense of it, I think he was like rated in the top 10 in chess, competitive chess, by the age of by the time he was in 6th grade. So he's one of these wunderkinds. But he worked with Mike Novogratz. Another sort of blockchain luminary, and potentially is interested in brokering a relationship between RChain and what Mike Novogratz is doing. So we'll hear more of that, hopefully, from John as things go forward. Let's see.
So Greg, what kind of role he's planning to play, John West, with co-op?
So what we're hoping is that he'll help us with asset management, and also he'll help with honing the message out to DApp developers regarding RChain, which will help bring them both to Pythia and to Reflective Ventures. So, Greg Heiss, hopefully you've had a chance to talk with John West, and if not, let us introduce you.
No. Actually, I had breakfast with him. He met the whole team. He's on board. That was going to be one of my announcements. To your description of him, Greg, I heard his background for the first time. I've known him for a while through the community, but a savant is what he is, and he's a genius when it comes to working in the crypto space. And those relationships you mentioned, we'll have a few more announcements when those solidify, but they're huge. What he can bring, and those are already in the works, guys. So we'll talk about that when they do solidify. But it's a huge win for us. It really is.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Greg, since you invoked my name, I'm compelled to answer.
Okay.
I would love an introduction because this is all surprise and net new.
Oh, okay. Yeah, absolutely. We'll definitely get you introduced for sure. For some reason, I thought he was already talking with you guys. But if he's not, you guys should absolutely be chatting with John West, because he's a savant, rock star. Those are all good terms. Okay, let's see. Is there any other items with respect to the board meeting that we should mention? Kenny, can you remember any?
No, not that I can remember, but we should have the notes out pretty quick here. We've also started recording all of the board meetings, so they are.
That's right.
Also recorded now. They're not necessarily going to be released, but we do have recorded copies now.
Yeah, absolutely. And let's see. I think that's about everything that I can remember that was major for the board. But yeah, as Kenny said, if there are any questions about that, the minutes will be up, and we can take time at the next hangout after the minutes are up to go over any questions about that. So with that, I'd love to get updates both from Pythia and from Reflective. Whoever wants to go first, guys.
Sure. I'll jump in. This is Greg from Reflective. So we're in New York this week, enjoying a nor'easter that's coming through here. So it's fun for that. That's not what we get in Seattle very often, but we are having some great meetings. One with John, we really enjoyed that. So that's fantastic. We'll have more from that. Also, we brought Renal on last night. We confirmed that deal. So Renal is going to be joining the team. Everybody in the community is probably aware of Renal. He's based in New York. He's the one that brought the guys in from Amir and Ankur and all those guys that are doing the marketing plan. So very, very highly regarded. We're super excited to have him on board and sort of fill out sort of this East Coast side of our office with Kevin Valentine. So those two guys are going to be taking the East Coast by storm, and the deal flow that we're seeing already for them and the meetings that we've already got are really mind-blowing. I honestly, sitting at the meetings after meeting John and then talking with Renal last night, and then the meetings that we've got for the rest of the 3 days we're here in New York, I can't wait to come back and tell you guys about everything that's going to be happening from that. So it is so good for the RChain community what's happening. We are blessed, as I will say again, to have these guys out here working for us. So it's fantastic there. The other one we did get finally officially, we have all 4 of those deals inked, done, funds committed, sent. So the first 4 are in. We've got 3 more that we should have done, I would guess, in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Kenny and Greg, I'm sending that information over to you guys to take a look at a couple of them. And now that we have extra eyes with Renal as well, he's jumping on point for a couple of other deals. We're going to blow through the 12 deals that we committed to for the year. That's not going to be a question at all. We were talking crazy numbers with John this morning that I don't even want to mention because it makes my head spin. But I think it's a matter of scaling. So we're slowly but surely getting there. We're also talking to a couple of big names in the space. One of them that you had mentioned earlier, Greg, and we're talking about an additional LP for starting an additional fund based on the RChain platform. So that's there as well. And then there's a lot of market makers that we're getting introduced to, as you can imagine, through John and Renal. So we'll, of course, be sharing that information as to how that's going to play. But that's a few of the things. Oh, in the office space, the leases, we have our first meeting on Monday to go through it with the architects and everybody to start that. They're assuring me that it's going to be done by the mid to late April, and that again is the Pioneer Square location. So that's moving forward, and I'm sure there's something else I'm missing, but that's about as much as you'll ever hear me talk. So there you go.
Thank you, Greg. Lawrence.
All right. Let me start off with, we have closed our first investment with Life ID. I'll drop the URL in, oops, why is it correcting it? Into the chat. And we'll have a broader announcement on that, but they are in the identity space. As we said, we're really focused on getting a lot of the foundational things as well as some other larger plays, but identity, wallets, exchanges, and I'll come back to an announcement on that. Payments, I just met with one of the large payment systems companies here in Seattle, and they are now looking at blockchain and certainly RChain as a pivot strategy. We've been a little behind on rolling out the website, but those updates are out there, and I am going to schedule that Q&A that everybody's been asked for on Pythia, and then Greg and I can do one, Greg Heiss and I can do one. I'll look for a time next week, and we'll try and just get it recorded because no one time is going to work for everybody, but we want to get as many as possible. Also, and I want to start with, this is on a test net. Thank you, Evan, for reminding me to repeat that. One of the first Atomic Swap wallets has agreed to host RChain or host Rocks, and we're in conversations with them about launching on RChain. But that is live, and it's altcoin.io. And so you can actually see that there are rocks there, and it's a test net that you can do swaps between other currencies. So that's really exciting. I would encourage everybody to go out and download their beta wallet. Give them some feedback and some testing. Let's see what's next. I did talk to folks in London. We are getting ready, and this is more on the co-op side, to bootstrap a London-based meetup. I've gotten some good connection. Georgie had provided a number of folks, and I've been having conversations all week, so we should get that in late March, early April lit up. Going back to Pythia, we've got another deal that we have closed, and we'll make the announcement in the next 2 weeks. The CEO has said they're very interested in doing it, but they're doing a time release with all of the other partners. And we've got about 2 or 3 other deals in the works that we'll announce, all in the same vein with the different fund structures we're creating. I am getting calls from all kinds of limited partners that we're working through. So early Sunday morning, I got a call from Israel to present to their family office. So that is another area that we're looking for in terms of limited partners for what Pythia is doing, because we've got to build our funds up to get funding to build our funds in addition to the rock treasury that we've got. Trying to think of any other big and notable things that we've got. I'll pause there if I remember. Oh, I've been invited to do a number of events. It's interesting. They put my name up on the website before I even said yes, so I'll be doing the Satoshi Summit, it looks like in May, as well as Money 2020. So more on that as I get the details.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. That's really remarkable. Would it be possible, Lawrence, to bring the Life ID folks to the RChain community hangout in the not too distant future, like next week?
Yeah, I should be able to. Yeah, Chris is usually on because he is a member and he is an active participant. But we will definitely get him on, as well as the CEO. From the other company that we've taken an investment. So yeah, thanks for reminding me.
That would be so fantastic. I really appreciate that. We have such interest in identity solutions. I had when Chris dropped by the governance forum, I enjoyed our chat, and I think there's a meeting of minds there. So would love to have a more detailed discussion of his thoughts on identity, and get the community to an opportunity to get some exposure and ask some questions.
Oh, and that is the other thing. Let me just quickly announce, and I'll follow it up with another announcement. We have launched our identity working group. There are going to be all of the details in another press release that has Trusted Key, Life ID, Verify, and 2 others that we will announce in the press release, which are really exciting to help build standards, protocols around the broader community of identity. So it is about RChain, but what I basically want to do is open source some thinking and thought leadership from all of these really smart people, and be able to say, if you want to build an identity solution, here's the components. Here's what we would need to do in key recovery. Here's what standards should look like. And then let smart people go at it and say, we can go build these. And of course, we want them funded and built on RChain, but that is something we are giving to the community. Payments will be next, and we'll announce some others. So
I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. And Tinker Toy solutions are a really good idea. Like some kind of it's a toolbox, toolkit kind of approach where people can go have at it is a really, really interesting approach. I really love that idea. Fantastic. Awesome. Well, this is really fantastic. Looks like both efforts are really starting to get going, and we'll be able to have a robust ecosystem already in the works by the time Mercury launches. So that is very, very good news, and I hope everyone gets a sense of why this is necessary and is excited as well. And as I understand it, this also means that the members of the co-op will be given sort of early access to these offerings, and which I think is going to be good both for the members of the co-op, but also good for each of these offerings. So I think that's a big win for the whole cooperative. Was John West at the governance forum? Is that the question, Patrick? Yes, he was. So moving on then, actually, let me just stop there and see if anyone, that was a mouthful. We had a ton of updates there. So we talked about the board meeting and some of the stuff there. And then we got updates from Pythia and from Reflective in reverse order there. So any questions from the community about anything that we heard so far? Going once. Going twice.
Is there information we can read about John West?
Yes. Yes. Yeah. We can get you some data about John for sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. We'll also invite him to chat on the community hangout for sure. So yeah, thanks for asking about that, Chris. Definitely put that out there. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what's going on with this tour of Europe. I'll begin with the conversation with Richard Olson from Licca. So he's one of the founders. We also met when we were at the Perm Winter School. Several of the, I think the remainder of the founding team. So Sergey, Misha, and Lena. So I think we've met all of the founders, and there was agreement on the. So we have a draft of a letter of intent, and we walked through the salient points of that with Richard Olson, and we had complete agreement on those points. So again, just to recap, I've said this before in the community hangouts, but just so that the membership is apprised, they will be hosting our nodes in their exchange, and there'll be an early version of that with a stubbed out API, which really doesn't do anything but allows them to get it set up for testing. And then as our node matures, we'll flesh out more of that API, and then they can start streaming history of transaction streams against the node, so we can put it under some extreme stress testing to see where, when, and how it breaks, and make sure that it's as robust as we can possibly make it when Mercury goes live. So that's the first two phases of that. They will help with the rock to rev conversion. And then finally, they want to use Rolang to build a distributed or decentralized exchange. And one of the reasons Kenny's been great on the whole trip, but since Kenny has been instrumental in building out a decentralized exchange, it was great to have him in the conversation with Richard to help sort of shape that conversation about building out that phase of the partnership. As we started talking, what it became clear is that Licca would like to have an even broader and deeper relationship with the co-op. One of the things that they have is a lot of experience in financial instruments, financial tools, and they would love to be able to put together a sort of a higher level toolkit in terms of financial instruments. And so we'll be doing some due diligence there. And we even brokered the possibility that the co-op might become a major shareholder in the Licca exchange, which is a very exciting idea. So we're going to start to get some diligence conversation around that and socialize this idea with the membership of the co-op, so more people can understand what Licca is and why this might be strategically important for the co-op. Essentially as a kind of flagship application, and for helping with the rev markets more generally. So quite excited about this possibility, and want to get as many people in as early as possible on those discussions and diligence to make sure that the process is open and transparent.
Greg, that's fantastic. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, I really didn't expect this at all.
And as you get into that diligence, my team is there to do the work, and we're happy to drive it forward with you.
Awesome. That's fantastic. Nathan, we don't know. I mean, right now, this is largely, I mean, it just opened up, the possibility opened up on Monday, right? Today is Wednesday. It feels like 10 years ago, but no, that was it was an unexpected turn of events, so I was really happy. So yeah, we're happy to get as many people involved as possible. So we'd love to have Pithy involved in the due diligence. So then the next thing was to speak with Paul-Andre Melius. I just posted a link. I want people to kind of get a sense of who, the caliber of the people that we're dealing with. So please check out Paul-Andre and in fact his whole lab. This is like the cream of the crop when it comes to computer science and mathematics. It doesn't get any better. And Paul-Andre was quite gracious because they were having a major event for the whole department. And he just decided to bring RChain into the event. And so we got to meet and greet and walk around with a number of members of the whole department. And Paul-Andre took a lot of time out from that event to chat with us and go over both sort of our technical goals and aims, and then also to sketch out the shape of a strategic partnership agreement. And Paul-Andre is quite excited about the possibility of actually putting together a small little research group that would be a part of the RChain research team, or effort. I don't have the right word right now. It's just terrifically jet lagged. I'm sorry. So it couldn't have gone any better. It turns out that the stuff that we're working on, in particular, just one piece of it, when it comes to the ladle algorithm, again, this is the logic as distributive law algorithm. One of the things that we want to make sure the algorithm gets right is subtyping and refinement. So people who are in the know about subtyping and concurrency know that there's a lot of tension between subtyping and concurrency. And in the object-oriented world, for example, it has notoriously been just wrong. So the inheritance model for many, many languages and other kinds of computational or proposals about how to do software reuse are just wrong when it comes to how object-oriented stuff maps over into the concurrent world. And this gives rise to the synchronization inheritance anomaly, for which there's a cottage industry of writing papers about how badly that's broken. So getting a subtyping or a refinement approach that falls out automatically, algorithmically, would be a huge win, because there have been so many ways that it's been broken by ad hoc approaches. Paul Andre and Noam Zalberger have a very nice approach to subtyping and refinement that we've been using as guidance in the formulation of our algorithm. So that's one place where we could really use their help to make sure that the algorithm sort of puts things out in the right shape or the right format. And so we went through some initial discussions about how that might play out. So it was just all around a fantastic meeting, a fantastic conversation, and Paul Andre, he used some language which gave me another idea today. He said he wrote me a very sweet email after the meeting and said, thank you for letting us be a part of the Parisian node of the RChain Research Network. And it made me think, you know what, we should approach these academic institutions to see if they want to run our nodes in their labs. So that's another thing that we're going to kind of see if there's gauge interest in, and that sort of segues over into today's discussions. Again, really, people should check out Samson's pedigree here. Samson is a fellow of Wilson College at Oxford. He's one of the founders of the Com Lab at Oxford, and in particular the quantum group at Oxford. So most recently, Samson has completely reformulated with Bob Kuka, who we're meeting tomorrow, has reformulated quantum mechanics. So they have a unique and an exceptionally powerful presentation of quantum mechanics called axiomatic quantum mechanics, where it's much easier to see sort of what pieces of the presentation relate to physical theory and what pieces of the presentation of quantum mechanics are just an accident of the way the mathematics was formulated. So there are there's like the Dirac style presentation of quantum mechanics. There's the von Neumann style presentation of quantum mechanics. There's the father of quantum computing, the Feynman style presentation of quantum mechanics. Each of these are different ways of approaching and thinking about quantum mechanics. And it has until Samson and Bob's work, it was never clear which part of these presentations was necessitated by the physics, and which part was sort of an accident to the way the mathematics is written down. But with axiomatic quantum mechanics, we get a much clearer view of that. So that's just one of Samson's contributions. Going back to the beginning of his career, he was the inventor of something called domain theory in logical form, in which he was able to show that you could generate logics that corresponded to certain domain theoretic presentations. And in many ways, that is an inspiration for that work was an inspiration for the Ladle algorithm. So that sort of was a major milestone in the development of domain theory, which is at the core of programming language semantics. So those are just a couple of his of his numerous accomplishments. He's a fellow of the Royal Society. So having him engaged in RChain research, I think would be an enormous win for RChain. And it looks like we had a very, very promising conversation. Samson definitely wants to take it the next step. And to that end, another thing that's come out of it is since we're sort of beginning to talk through these different arrangements with people, Kenny and Lilia have been contemplating putting together a strategic research strategic partnership template, which should help us kind of make up the pipeline of these strategic partnerships flow a lot more smoothly. So that's another good development that came out of this. Tomorrow, also, just when we walked into the CommLab buildings, there's a big monitor in the lobby that's talking about what classes are ongoing that day, and there was a class on concurrent programming that was being offered at 3:00 that day. So it speaks to the experience and the caliber of students that go to Oxford, and so that was the other thing that we talked about both with Andre and with Samson, was set up a kind of a rotation so that we can bring some of this computing talent into RChain research and hopefully also into RChain development more generally, so that these sort of young stars in computer science can make their impact and also be exposed to and influenced by the thinking in RChain. So we're quite excited about that aspect as well. Tomorrow we'll be meeting with Bob Kuka and hopefully, fingers crossed, also with Jamie Vickery and Luke Ong, and take the conversation a little further. One of the things that we've talked about, and I've mentioned this before, is this idea of axiomatizing consensus. So Samson and Bob are sort of the leaders, the promoters of this idea of using traced composition. So a particular kind of way of composing computational processes in what's called the trace monodal category to characterize distributed consensus. So Samson, sort of liked this approach, and we'd like to explore this a little bit further. Hopefully take this the next step with their expert guidance to make sure that we're sort of going down the right path here to give a good characterization of consensus much more broadly. So hopefully we'll be talking with Bob about that. But the flip side is making sure that RChain is quantum proof or future proof against the inevitable development of quantum computing. And in particular, we want to make sure that the way we've factored our architecture and the way everything fits together, if there are components of the consensus algorithm that could be layered on top of a quantum network, that the rest of RChain just continues to work, as it always has, so that it isn't perturbed by a switch over to a quantum-based distributed consensus, which potentially could be considerably faster and considerably more powerful.
We are already looking at that in terms of the cryptographic libraries as well. We've implemented the cryptography in such a way that it is more modular, and we have an upgrade plan for cryptography. And we are looking also at some of there's like only one quantum crypto library out there, but it is something that we are keeping a watch on.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the other side of this. There's making sure that we're future proof against the inevitable developments in the cryptographic pieces, as well as this other thing. And I think a lot of projects have had their eye on the cryptographic part. I don't think there's any other project, at least to the best of my knowledge, that is looking at quantum and its impact on the consensus part. So I feel good that we've got this extra added insurance policy. Let's put it that way. So yeah, that's good news as well. So that's that piece of the update, and then on sort of the more entertaining side, I want to mention that the RChain and Resonate have agreed to take our Friday morning talks and open those up. So the Friday morning RChain Resonate talks are going to become a community hangout just like this one. So people can see what's going on in terms of the investment in Resonate and how RChain, how those two cooperatives are supporting each other. I have hired Nora Germain to help develop that channel out, and and Christian and I have been talking about getting Christian involved in the AV work, which I'm very excited about because Christian's done a fantastic job of with this and the Casper Hangout. So if he's got the cycles, we'd love to have him. We'd love to have him on the RChain Resonate chats, and the goal, the ambitious goal, is to bring the channel to 1 million subscribers. And part of the reason we think we can do that is not just because we have some who's who movers and shakers in the music industry, like George Howard, who is one of the principals behind TuneCore, and because we have involvement from people like Imogen Heap. But you should go check out Nora Germain, who is not only a brilliant violinist, but who is a veritable walking who's who of connections with the LA and broader music industry. So she's personal friends with Jean-Baptiste, who is the band leader for the Late Night Show. I mean, I could go on and on about her connections and contacts. She plays with Tanglewood. She knows so many people in the music industry. So we actually think that we have enough presence and can bring enough presence to the channel that we can build it out to 1 million subscribers, because there'll be broad interest in terms of what's happening in the music industry, but also there will be just exposure to some of the most phenomenal performers on the planet. So I'm very excited about that development, and that segues into on Monday of next week, we will be landing in Berlin to meet with Resonate and some other people in the crypto space. So the Trent, I think it's McConaughey, and the Big Chain DB folks, and who have been supporters of RChain for quite some time. And hopefully with some of the Ethereum folks who are in Berlin to talk about setting up a shared space, and then to start to get our ducks in a row to open up an RChain Europe office, and in particular to open up a German cooperative. So very excited about that. Hopefully we can meet with Phil and Tim, who have been so instrumental in help shaping the co-op, and were great contributors at the RChain Governance Forum. They want to kick off a proposal to get as many European members or European members of the blockchain community to the RChain Developer Conference. So that segues to the next bit. In April, I think it's like mid-April, like the 14th or somewhere around there, we have the RChain Developer Conference. It's happening in Boulder. So, come one, come all. We're very excited about this. The first couple of days are going to be a private retreat with the RChain developers to make sure that we are, working like, a well-oiled machine, or that's a terrible metaphor, but working like a living system. And then open it up to the broader community. There'll be some so high profile speakers, and we'll be talking about that in subsequent meetups. There are not too many between now and then, so they'll be happening fast and furious. But we really want to get the word out to the community, to the developer community. And if they want to find out about RChain, or if they want to present their projects, we want to support that open dialogue as well. In fact, one of the things that we are contemplating is to have a panel discussion with the major third generation blockchain efforts. So we'd love to have EOS there. We'd love to have Cardano there. We'd love to have Cosmos there. So we're going to be reaching out to those groups to have a good, healthy exchange and healthy dialogue around sort of the next wave of blockchain, and what we can expect, and how they compare and contrast, and what the different focuses are. So that is also very exciting. I've been just yammering. Let me take a breath and pause and see if there are any questions from the community about all those developments.
If you do that, I'd love to see a follow-up discussion with them on governance. You know me, right? There's my plug.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed, Lawrence. I think that's a really, really important point. Yeah, I mean, I feel like one of the things I was just telling both Paul Andre and Samson over the last 2 days, one of the things I'm most proud of with this community is the governance model that RChain has adopted initially, and how it's playing out. Right, it could have gone just like disastrously wrong, but what's astounding is how well people are sort of taking up the task and just getting stuff done. A really good example of that is the marketing effort. I am so impressed with this sort of self-organized team who just decided to take it upon themselves to come up with a comprehensive marketing plan that supports all three organizations, Pythia, Reflective, and the Co-op, and potentially other organizations as well. So very excited about that. Any other questions?
Yeah, Greg. What time is the Resonate thing on Friday?
8:30 to 9:30 a.m. Pacific Standard or Pacific time.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So that would be 11:30 to 12:30 on Fridays.
Okay. And are they is Resonate in Berlin, or are they in Seattle, or both?
Resonate is in Berlin.
Got it. Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And this thing will also be instrumental in helping to keep the RChain Europe offices in sync with the RChain US offices. Oh yes, that's right, Meta. Thank you. Wow, that's really fast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we, yeah, we lose an hour. Just what I need.
Well, and our folks overseas don't do it on the same day we do, of course, because we have to be different. So.
Yeah, that's right. So we get this kind of, yeah. There's always this wobble,
Exactly.
when yeah, absolutely. Okay. Any other questions from the community?
Hey, Greg,
All right.
I just wanted to introduce myself to the group. This is Cody Clausen. I'm the new events manager at Pyrofx. So for the April Dev Conference, I'll be doing the logistics and trying to pull everything together. So if anybody has any questions or needs anything on that, it's just Cody at pyrofx.net.
Fantastic. Thank you, Cody. I appreciated seeing that the first draft of the conference proposal, and looking forward to iterations.
Absolutely. Yep. We're working on getting everything nailed down, and it'll just get better from here. Thanks.
Fantastic. Thank you. Any other questions or comments from folks? I just want to make, because I realize that not everyone is aware of this, but as people may know, I'm kind of moving at a breakneck pace, frequently in the doghouse with my with Natasha, because I'm spending a lot of time on RChain. So on December 19th, I'm taking a break from RChain stuff. This will be right after we launch, or thereabouts. Our launch is going to be in the fourth quarter. So people, I'll definitely be around for the launch. But beginning December 19th until February 28th, I'm taking a break. I'm desperately in need of a break. We've been working at a huge pace, and we are going on tour. We're going to go and play a bunch of cities with the music that we've been developing over the last couple of years, and we're very excited about. So just know that I'm not stepping down from my responsibilities, but I absolutely will have to have some time to recharge my batteries, because we are firing on all cylinders, and there has to be some time when I can be a human being. So I just want to that shouldn't be a surprise for anyone, that's in the works, and a part of our thinking and a part of my planning. And I'm making sure that there are good folks who can step in and cover cover my roles and responsibilities while I'm taking that break. But I don't want anyone to be shocked or surprised. That's been a part of the plan for quite some time. So just wanted to make sure that's something that everyone understands. Okay. Anything else? Going once.
Great question. When are you coming back, States?
Yeah, so that's the 13th.
13th. Great. Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. Going twice? All right. So at least in Oxford, London, Oxford, England, at 20:03 in the evening, this this episode of the RChain Community Hangout is complete, and looking forward to seeing you guys on the other side.